So what I want to do is cover some data and some information for you. So why is what we talk about? Why is the internet important? What is digital marketing and why is it important to us? I want to break down some basic numbers. We live here in Florida, in Miami-Dade. So in Miami, the population here is about 2.7 million people, right? So if you're a business, if you're a local business, you know, if you sell something, you want to make sure at least you're targeting and marketing to those people in Miami, the 2.7 million people. Make sense? Okay. Well, let's say you want to go to Broward. You want to expand your business and go to Broward. So in Broward, there's about 2 million people in Broward. So combined, you have about 5 million people, 4.7 million people. And let's say you want to grow the business even more and go into Palm Beach. There's 1.5 million people in Palm Beach. And let's say you want to expand throughout the state of Florida. In the two other biggest counties we have, Hillsborough and Orange County, there's another 3 million people there. In total, there's about 22 million people in Florida. So you have a big market to reach, 22 million in Florida. Now, in the US, because now we're on the internet, right? So we can really reach anybody. If we have a business in Florida, we can reach someone in Washington State or in New York. If we think about the US market, there's 327 million people. Not all of them are your target. We'll talk about target marketing here in a second. But think about that. You're a local place in Miami, and not only do you have to do business in Miami, but now you have the whole country to do business in, right? So now you went from 2 million people population to 327 million. But let's think even further than that. Because you're online. What's the online marketplace? The world. Right. World, right? 24/7. So how many people do we have in the world? 7.4 billion people globally. Now, not all of them are going to buy your product. Not all of them could speak your language. But think about that in terms of from a local business, now you have 7.4 billion people that you can reach. And then we're talking about numbers and we're being analytical here. Out of that 7.4 billion people, internet users are about half, 3.5 billion people use the internet. Okay? So that's a pretty big audience that you can reach if you're online. Now, out of that 3.5 billion people that use the internet, we know that there's about 2.3 billion people that are actively involved in social media. That's almost 1/3 of all the people actively involved in social media. So if your business could market to 2 billion people, and by the way, how much does it cost to have a social media account? Free, right? So imagine that. You're a local business in Miami that only has a population of 2.5 million people, but now you can market to 2.3 billion people online through social media. That's pretty phenomenal, right? I don't know what the exponential rate is, but it's pretty big. So we also know that there are 3.8 billion people that use mobile phones. So where's all the action happening today? Where's all the social media happening? On what device? On your phone, on the smartphone. So now you just have a reach of 3.8 billion people. Now I know you're not going to be able to market to everybody because there are very particular target markets here. But just think of the numbers here, what you could do in terms of percentages from going from a local business here in Miami to the world. And then there's 2 billion people that are on social media on their phones. So my question to you is this. If you had a local Miami business, what's a bigger number? What's a better number for you as a business owner? The 2.5 million you have here in Miami-Dade County, or the 2 billion people in the world that are on social media? 2 billion people, right. Even if 1.99 billion of those people are not interested in what you sell or have, the opportunity is so much bigger. Why would you not be on social media? Why would you not be in digital marketing? Why would you not try to go after that market? And guess what? When we're sleeping, the other part of the world is awake. So now you could be making money 24/7. So there's no reason why a business, a local business, anywhere in the world, and specifically here in Miami since we're down here, should not be in online digital marketing and the social media. There's no reason at all, right? So that's some of the key things that we'll have to talk about and go through, and that's why it's important to make sure that you're marketing there. So digital marketing is an encompassing thing. So what is digital marketing? Digital marketing will help you reach your target audience. You have to define that target audience, and we'll cover some of that. We'll help you reach those 2 billion people that are out there on social media, on their phones. That's important. The return on investment is, compared to what it used to be, and I've been in marketing most of my life, it used to cost us $2,000 to get a page advertisement in the local print edition of your, my hometown paper or something like that, right? And now, and you only reach X amount of people in the zip codes. Now we don't talk in zip codes anymore, do we? We don't say what zip code do you want to market to. Now we're talking what city, what town, what state, what country do you want to market in? Think about that. When I first started in marketing, we talked about buying zip codes when we did what we call direct mail pieces. How many zip codes can you buy? And if it costs you 10 cents per piece of mail you sent out, you have to figure out how many households live in that zip code, and that will determine your budget. So you have to be mindful of what zip codes made sense. And the data is still out there. The United States Postal Service still keeps data like that to tell you what the income is and what the household penetration is in certain zip codes. So you can still do that. And direct mail is still effective, but not nearly as cost effective as digital marketing. So that's what digital marketing is all about. Return on investment, flexibility. You could be flexible. You could customize your message to the person's needs, what they want, what they need, right? And the return on investment is just phenomenal there. So the question is, if you're not on social media, and if you're not performing on digital marketing, why? That's almost like if you had a store, if you had a storefront. We all know when the storefront is, let's call it glass, with a glass door, and you have a big sign, Professor Ken's shoe store. It's pretty obvious. You walk in, you open the door, you go in, and I sell shoes. That's pretty obvious. But if you drove around to the back of that store and you just saw the brick part with the little iron or steel door they have, right, with the little lock and key, that had nothing but a phone number on there or a little address number, would you go in? Would you be enticed? No. So think of that in terms of what social media is doing. There are companies out there that are not properly doing digital marketing. They're not properly effectively using social media. Small businesses and big businesses. And it's not about the likes. It's more about the engagement, right? It's more about the engagement. Who cares if 1 million people liked my post? I want to know about how many of those 1 million people actually converted into dollars if I'm in the business of selling something. Because you can like me all day long, but if it's not increasing my sales, how does it help me? That's what digital marketing is all about too. It's about building trust, that one-to-one, peer-to-peer relationships, right? We used to talk about, we called it word-of-mouth advertising. Do you guys hear that before, word-of-mouth advertising? So in the old physical days, it would be, I would tell you, you would tell a friend, that friend will tell 2 people, those 2 people will tell 2 people, and those 4 people will tell 4 people, and exponentially it'll grow, it'll grow, it'll grow, and we build trust. Do you know that less than half of this country trusts business? But more than half of this country trusts what their friends tell them is good, right? So if your friend says, hey, check this out, are you more likely or less likely to check it out? You're more likely. But if a business tells you, hey, check this out, what are you going to do? Maybe, right, yeah, maybe. So, exactly right. So you're going to think about that. So it's not only using digital marketing, it's not only using social media, it's also about creating that engagement, that consumer engagement. That's important. So let's talk about another thing called CLV. That's customer lifetime value, CLV. That used to be a term we used in marketing way back when. Today, the best analogy I can give you is, let's say you're on Amazon. How many people here are on Amazon? Most of us, right? Okay. So customer lifetime value is the amount of money you would spend with a product or service over the course of your lifetime. So let's say the average person lives 40 years. Okay, I know they live longer, but let's say you're buying something for 40 years. And let's say you're on Amazon, okay, and you're a Prime subscriber. We know that you pay $9 a month for that. Let's say it's $100. Let's use easy math. $100 a year for 40 years, because you never probably go away from Amazon, right? Once you're on, you're on. You're not going to get off. So who could give me the math? $100 a year for 40 years is how much? 100 a year for 40 years. $4,000. Okay. Now $4,000 doesn't sound like a lot of money, right? But that's one person. How many millions of people are doing that on Amazon? A lot. So now take that 4,000 a year and multiply that. That's why they're the world's largest company. And then let's talk about what you buy. Let's say you spend an average of, let's call it $10 a month on purchases, which is low, right? We all probably spend about $100 a month with Amazon, plus or minus. But let's say you spend $10. Let's call it $100 a year. Now you spend $100 a year again on purchases for 40 years. That's another $4,000. So now you're giving Amazon $8,000 a year. Over 40 years, your lifetime value would be $8,000. That's just one individual. Now multiply that by 20 million individuals. That starts adding up, right? So when you build trust, when you build that brand, you have to look at that customer lifetime value, because you want someone to be with you all this time. That's how you build a business. The long-term effect. We used to talk about customer lifetime value all the time. It's like the Pampers story. When you're in the hospital, they give you formula, right? They give you a goodie bag. They give you formula, they give you diapers and things like that. And then we all say, oh my God, you can't change the formula because the baby will get sick, or you can't change the diapers because the baby will have a diaper rash. Scientifically, medically, I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe. But we believe that, right? And then what do? We get that brand and we stick to that brand, right? And so for as long as that baby uses diapers, we're only buying that brand. For as long as that baby, until the baby's 5 or 6, whatever it's out of the formula, or 3 or 4 actually, well, we are buying that formula. So that's all. So I want to have you part of my brand for as long as you're buying that type of product. I want you to be my customer, and that's CLV. That's customer lifetime value. And then now one is small, but now you add that to millions, and now you have a multi-million-dollar business. So that's what digital marketing will help you do, build that trust. And that's how you go from zero to a multi-billion-dollar company in X amount of years. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. Right? It's not going to happen. You're not going to open up a store tomorrow, a web shop tomorrow, or an e-commerce store tomorrow and go from zero to $100 million. That really happens. Really happens. It takes years. I mean, Amazon's around for 20 years, right? So it's taken them that long to get to where they are. But let's face it, where they are now is pretty good. If I told you 20 years from now you'll be the largest company in the world, but you have to do this, this, and this, I'm sure as long as you're healthy and you live, you'll take it, wouldn't you? 20 years from now, right? Be the richest person in the world. Figure it out. But it's a step process. It's customer lifetime value. So that's the key takeaway from our sort of discussion today.